Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Disgruntled. Thank you for being here. As always, I just want to extend my thank you. So, thank you for being here. Furthermore, if you appreciate, or like, or like the content in which we put out, please consider dropping us a like and/or subscribe. It really helps us to move forward with achieving the goals that we wanted to build with this platform. Um, there's some cool partnerships in the works. There's some things in which we want to do with this platform. And as I've stated before, we got to build it. And by build it, I mean it takes time. And so just a simple like and subscribe helps us a lot. It helps us a lot and it goes a long way. So please consider doing that. I really do appreciate it. Today is kind of a, I have a, I have a weird, just a weird feeling about the goings-ons in our country in the last week. And on the outside chance, or a very possible chance, that this talk gets political, because I think it's going to, I want to preface that by saying I usually don't like to delve into politics a whole lot. I don't follow it very closely anymore. But of course, it's hard to avoid nowadays because it's everywhere. Even if you don't watch the news, you're going to catch a little bit about what's going on just by being involved in conversation around you or overhearing, or somebody just comes up and asks you because they think you're interested or that you have an opinion or whatever the case may be. And so, as we all know, Donald Trump was found guilty of 30-something crimes and is facing potential incarceration. And it just sounds ridiculous to me. I don't know a lot about the case. I didn't follow it very closely. To be quite honest, I didn't think that it would, I really didn't think it would get as far as it did. I thought for sure that there's no way possible they'd have a unanimous jury until there was some talk about, well, this group of crimes, you don't all have to agree on this, but and if you agree on this, and some of you agree here and some of you agree here, but don't disagree on all of it, that's good enough. Something like that is what I caught wind of, and it has just become so abundantly clear that the powers that be, whoever that is, I'll let you have your own opinion about who that might be, are going to stop at nothing to ensure that man never sits in the Oval Office again. So, like, those things make me think about his safety, right? I don't believe that there should be any reason that the man needs to fear for his life, but I don't put it past him. There is probably many examples of people from this country who have done away with their adversaries or opponents or whatever you want to call it, and it was labeled something else. I think there's many examples of that in the last 4 or 5 years. Hell, the rumor is that the Clintons been killing people for years and years. How many bodies do they got on their hands that nobody's come clean about? And so what does that mean? What does that mean for us as a country? All these, I read an article that said Donald Trump is he's facing like 91 or 92 or something like that charges that he still has yet to be adjudicated in court, and then a verdict in a verdict passed, or a verdict came to, and then a sentence passed if necessary. And for what? Because the guy questioned it? I mean, we have The federal election interference case. How many states are trying to take him off the ballot and are suing him and prosecuting him in court for asking for the election to be confirmed? And to the best of my knowledge, it still hasn't been done. They just keep calling him crazy and everyone else who sides with him crazy. And then we move on to the next thing. And in talking to people, it seems as if people really think or know that there was treachery afoot, that it wasn't a free, fair, and honest election. And the only people that are telling us it's not are the people that are calling Donald Trump crazy. But nobody seems to be able to verify or give some kind of presentation or press conference or literature or pamphlet or whatever to prove that he's crazy and that he's wrong. And then classified documents, and let's raid his home, and let's put him out there on some porn star that said she paid him off. And so what? So what if he did? Who cares? If anybody in this country really thinks there hasn't been dirtier shit done in the halls of Washington, D.C., than a now ex-president who paid off a porn star years ago, before he was even president, to shut up about it, you're very sadly mistaken. Nobody seems to remember that Bill Clinton was getting his little willy whacked in the Oval Office by a member of his staff. An intern, but yet a member of his staff. And here now, because Donald Trump gave some old, rundown, ratchet, raggedy, has-been porn star some money to shut up, he deserves to go to prison for that? Well, he didn't disclose where the money was going. Of course he didn't. Has any other politician, has any other famous person, has any other person that sits at a high level in any office anywhere in this land, has anybody else just come clean about their transgressions before they were in office? Is Donald Trump the only person to pay off some kooky-ass porn star that he slept with years before he was president? No? Wasn't JFK banging Marilyn Monroe in the White House or something like that while he was a married man? I mean, there's all kinds of stories of adultery and transgressions and all kinds of stuff. But we're going to burn this guy to the ground. And it seems as if there are people that are just buying this and they don't question it. Now, what I'll say is, just like anybody else in this country, if you're guilty of a crime, then you do the time. But we can't act like this is the first guy. This is the first guy to think with his small head. He's a man. Nobody can take that away from him. So yeah, he did something stupid. And then he was in some locker room talking to some other dude about grabbing women by the crotch or that it's, who knows? I don't remember what it said. All I remember is that he said to grab him by the crotch. Okay. Locker room talk. Yeah. Again, if there's any American, let's just say this, if there's any man ever who hasn't been in a locker room, in a car on guys' weekend, driving to the lake, anywhere, wherever, that hasn't had some raunchy ass shit to say when he thought he was in the presence of just the person or people he was talking to? If Donald Trump's the only one to ever do that, well, then let's hang him high, I guess. But what confuses me about it is that all these people who are putting him, trying to send him to the gallows, none of them come clean about any of their transgressions. And I suppose they're not trying to be president. But let's be real about it. President Biden had secret classified documents in his house somewhere, in some room or office or whatever. Garage, I think he said. We talked about it for a few weeks, maybe. There might have been a hearing about it or some stupid crap. Never to be talked about again. But we're going to put Donald Trump on trial eventually for it and try to put him in prison. And all the while all this is going on, these folks are just fueling the fire. To be quite honest, and I know by this time, today, it's been said a million times, but I agree. Our now failed justice system has, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others clearly, have just secured a second term for this guy. The people that the people that just a few short years ago were cursing his name and calling him a pig and saying they were going to leave this country if he was elected are now saying they're going to vote for him. They're now saying that they're going to support him and send him money. How many hundreds of millions of dollars has he raised in a week? I think it's pretty clear that the people are fed up with all this bullshit. And what makes it even more interesting to me is that they keep going. They keep trying again. They keep trying again and again. And he keeps showing up. He keeps giving speeches. He's going to UFC. He's doing campaign events. For a dude in his late 70s that should be probably just destroyed by stress from trying to be hung high in a public square, he's chilling. And I can say this, I can appreciate that about him. You know, I tell people that are close to me all the time that sometimes it's easier to just let some of these things that bother us to beat up like water and roll off our back like duck's feathers. I think Donald Trump is probably the GOAT at being like a duck, if that makes sense. But for real, he just keeps showing up and showing out. And at every pass, there's more people. There's more people. There's more people, all of them coming to support him. And so you may be asking, well, how does this correlate? This is a veteran show. How does this correlate to veterans or military? And I thought about an answer to that. When I tell people that I'm a veteran of the United States military, I would really like it to mean something. I'd really like it to be something that not me in particular, but I'd like it to be something that people respect and admire. Not me, but the institution of the United States military. The idea of what it stands for and why it's there. Has our military made mistakes? Yep. Are we going to make more? Yep. But really at its core, the young people that are choosing to enter service, they deserve to have it mean something too. You know, it's kind of like, it's a whole different level, of course, but it's kind of like a person who's super picky about their lawn looking good, or a fanatic about their car always being clean. They want it to look nice. They want it to be something that they can be proud of. That others can look at and go, man, that's really nice. Hey, that's cool, man. Well, that's how I feel about this country and my military service and the military service of everybody else. When people think about why do others join the military? It'd be really nice if it meant something positive. And the way that our country is going and has been going, we don't look strong. We don't look like we're confident. We're not putting off positive vibes. The soldiers who are wearing the uniforms, for the most part, I believe, are working their balls off and their ovaries off. Let's be inclusive. Balls and ovaries being worked off all over the world. But people here, back at home, in D.C. and other parts of this country where decisions are made, they're wrecking that whole narrative by doing some stupid shit. By doing some stupid shit like, for example, celebrating trannies. Celebrating gays and queers or whatever the hell they call themselves now. Now, I, for one, I could give a damn who you lay your head down next to at night. I could care less who you decide to have meaningless sexual encounters with, what age they are, what gender they are, as long as they're not kids. I should preface that. What gender they are, what sexual orientation they are, what race they are, what color their skin is, what their heritage is, their background, their job. I don't care. Sleep with whoever you want. But is it really something that we need to put on the front page of papers and magazines and social media posts? And maybe it is. For some, maybe it is. But I would argue this. The United States military is not a place. It's not a place for us to decide that we're going to plant our flag on transgenderism and LGBTQRS SUV, whatever the hell it is, rights. Because the truth of the matter is that really nobody cares, or at least they shouldn't care. If you show up like you're supposed to, and you're in the right place at the right time in the right uniform and doing the right thing and displaying some integrity, nobody's going to give a shit if you're gay. No one's going to care if you chop off your dick and have a man-made vagina put in. Nobody cares. If you're going to change your name from Dan to Dana, nobody cares. Sorry to tell you. And maybe some will say that I'm naive for saying this, but I don't know that a whole lot of people really ever did. At least from the mid-90s to present. You know, before they got rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell in the military, I served with a lot of homosexual people. There was a lot of them. They didn't hide it. We all knew. We would talk about it in our circles. The very first unit I was in, we had a woman in our maintenance platoon. I think she was a mechanic or an alls clerk or something, but she worked in the maintenance shop. Very lesbian. Like she didn't have to say it. You could tell. And she was open about it. In fact, I think she brought her girlfriend to the company picnic even. Nobody cared. She was good at her job. She helped out where it needed to be done. And that was it. When the duty day was over and the first sergeant said we could take out our coolers that were filled with beer and ice, she was there drinking beer with us, just like the other women, the other men. We'd sit out at the picnic tables drinking beer and smoking cigarettes till 2, 3 in the morning. No big deal. Nobody demanded that she quit or that she leaves. Nobody gives a shit. So with all that being said, I think that it should mean something. And as now the new old saying goes, the truth doesn't give a shit about your feelings. You don't have the right to not be offended. So if you don't like it, find a circle of somebody that agrees with you and go there, but then shut up about it. And so when we're doing things like making public posts and putting it in magazines and doing like huge spreads about these trannies who are in high places in military leadership, and it looks ridiculous. They look ridiculous. They don't look like women. You can tell they're not women. They don't even sound like women. And these are the people that are given orders from high places. These are the people, in some cases, that are making decisions about where soldiers go, what the mission might be, what rules of engagement are. These people are making decisions about our soldiers' lives. Now, if you would just do what you're going to do and show up for work and not have to throw it in everybody's face, probably nobody would say anything. I shouldn't say that, because I'm sure that there's probably people here and there that are going to talk behind your back and this and that, but who cares? At the end of the day, the goal is to accomplish the mission. The mission isn't to chop all of our wieners off and then put vaginas in their places, and then vice versa for the ladies. The mission is to be professional, accomplish the mission with the tools given to you, do it at as high of a level as possible, and then move on to the next one. Rinse and repeat. So now, the whole world is watching this stuff. Our enemies are watching this stuff. Our supporters are watching this stuff. And in some cases, I would argue that our supporters are the people that we really should be concerned with. We want to keep them our supporters. We want to keep our allies our allies. But if we got shit going on that's super crazy like we got going on now, some of these allies hopefully aren't going to be pulling out going, you guys are, you're falling off. They got to make decisions that are best for their people. And you know what? The truth is, I could be wrong about all of it. Could be. But it's all right here in front of you. It's all right here in front of us. And anybody who has any kind of wisdom in their body and any kind of investigative spirit at all could probably pick out one or two things at the very least that really are head scratchers and make you wonder what exactly is going on. And so what do we do now? Now we're entering the precipice of election season. We already know that the elections are fake. We already know that they're not fair. We don't, as a country, trust the system that says they're letting us vote to put our people in office, the people we want to represent us. We don't trust it. And for good reason. So, I mean, man, it's almost like, it's like a movie, right? It's like you're watching this movie and you think that you have an idea of what's coming next. My wife's really good at this. We'll be 30 minutes into a 2.5-hour movie and she'll tell you how it's going to end. And 90% of the time, she's almost spot on. And so it feels like sometimes we're living in this movie where it's like, oh, okay, well, it's building suspense, right? And there's going to be some weird shit going on. And then you get to that arc and the thing takes a complete right-hand turn. Those are good movies. Not good movies when you're watching it play out in real life with your own government, your own elected officials, and with the people that control everything that we do, pretty much. or at least what we pay for everything we do. The people that tell you how much money you got to give them. It's crazy. So we got that going on. Elections are fake, stolen. You can't trust them. We're trying to put in prison the last president of these United States over whether or not he listed a payment, an alleged payment to some ugly-ass porn star properly. That's really what the case was about, as far as I could gather. It was put in there as a payment to a lawyer, but it went to Stormy Daniels. And that turned into 32 felonies somehow. And maybe if I would have watched every day, a recap every day, I'd be a little more aware of what the actual charges were. But the Cliff Note version seemed to be just that. Maybe I'm wrong. But either way, we're going to put our last president of the United States potentially in prison or house arrest right at the precipice of election season when he should be out campaigning because we have free and fair elections. We're going to put him on house arrest so he can't go anywhere. We're going to put gag orders on him so he can't say nothing, essentially defend himself in the public forums. You're going to tell him he can't operate his businesses in his home state. Well, not his home state, but where he operated his business for years. I think his home state now is Florida. What the hell is going on? Why is everybody so scared of Donald Trump? I don't know. I don't get it. And so what is going to happen? What's going to happen when he's elected? Let's rewind a little bit. What's going to happen when and if they put this man in jail and this country explodes? Then what? They put that man in jail, in my opinion. It's like saying everything you've ever been taught about this country and how it's for the people, by the people, is a lie. Your right to a fair trial and a jury of your peers, that's a lie. The judge, for Pete's sake, donates to Biden's campaign or has. His daughter runs some company that does nothing but beats off Biden all day long. She was allowed to sit in the courtroom so she can write about it. Apparently. It's a fair trial. Why does he not deserve a fair trial? The United States of America, the people elected him to be there. Assuming that it's when he got elected the president that it was free, fair election. The people put him there. He made some promises that he didn't fulfill. Every president does. Even the great Obama made promises he didn't fulfill. Biden certainly has. Bush did. So what are we going to do? I think that's something that we should be thinking about as we move closer to this election. Well, we're in election season, but as we move closer to the election, to election day. Because what happens when he's elected? These kooks that are like insane about Donald Trump, that break down into fits when they hear his name, boy, they're really gonna have a tough day. Are we gonna have to go through 6 months of riots and burning and violence and all this other shit because Donald Trump is the president of the United States again? Are we going to have to go through all that because we're going to pay less than $3 a gallon for gas again? Are we going to go through all that because eggs are going to be $2 a dozen again? We're going to go through all that because our property taxes are going to be appropriate again? Everything that we pay for is going to be appropriate again? The infiltration of our country at the southern border is going to stop, and that's going to be right again? The people that are taking our kids and ass raping them and killing them and selling them to other people across this world to do unspeakable things to our children, we're going to fight that harder? Is that negative? None of that's been done since he left office. But what we have done as a country, I'll tell you this, what we have done as a country, folks, is pay for the Ukraine to fight Russia. Billions and billions of dollars. That alone is an extremely frustrating thing to think about. Ask yourself this question. Let's just say, for conversation's sake, $2 billion. If we took $2 billion away from the hundreds of billions of dollars that we've given the Ukraine, not to mention fuel, equipment, soldiers, aid, food, whatever else, God knows what else we've given them. If we take $2 billion out of the cash that they get, I bet you this country could not have a homeless veteran in it if they didn't want to be. I bet you we could put a good dent in actually finding a cure for cancer. How many hundreds of millions, dare I say billions of dollars, has Susan G. Komen wasted on breast cancer? I believe they know. I believe there's treatments out there. This is the tinfoil hat portion of the show, maybe. But why are we not questioning these things? Why are we not publicly questioning the powers that be? And then not accepting some blanket, stupid ass answer. It's frustrating. And so this affects veterans, I believe, because I believe that we want our sacrifice. I believe that the people who are currently wearing a uniform in defense of this country want their sacrifice to mean something. When they tell people that they're soldiers or that they used to serve, want it to mean something. It's not it's not just about it's not just about the veterans, right? Like I believe that there's a little pick me up for people, maybe. People who actually care, who actually value this proverbial blanket of freedom that we sleep under. And even today, some would say that it's all a lie and it's not. There is no freedom. But let's just say, for conversation's sake, there's a proverbial blanket of freedom. People like that idea. And so when you meet somebody and maybe you spark up a quick conversation, you meet a veteran, oh hey, I served too, or my grandfather served, and people kind of get not excited, but they get uplifted by it. A lot of times there's good memories there. Oh, my grandfather, he was so proud of his service. He wore his bomber jacket until the day he died. And it was always one of his most favorite things to talk about up until he died. So even if it is all a lie and it's all fake and it's all bullshit, for these guys and gals, it's not. For these people, the idea of America is real. Whether it's real or not in reality. Who the hell are we to tell them they're wrong for that? I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to watch go down because you never thought that we as a country would be here. We never thought that we'd be talking about putting our last president in prison for paying a porn star before he was even a politician. The guy's a billionaire. What kind of crazy shit do you think Bill Gates has paid off in hush money? That guy's kooky as hell. What kind of crazy shit do you think who's the weird dude that owns Amazon, Bezos? What kind of hush money do you think he's paid? They all pay hush money to somebody for something. I don't know. I think that we should be thinking about these things as we get further into the season, into the summer. November's creeping up on us quick. My call to action, I suppose you could call it, is to think about the direction in which we're going and how we can gain more understanding as a community. And I believe it's by asking questions. You're going to get calls. You're going to get people knocking on your door. You're going to get text messages. You're going to get approached when you're walking in the grocery store by, hey, I'm so-and-so running for this, blah, blah, blah. Ask them tough questions. Ask them hard questions. Anybody that calls you that wants your support for a political office, ask them hard questions. Because the stuff that they're supposed to be there working on and solving and putting together or whatever, they're not easy issues. But we're not even trying. We're not even trying to solve some of this stuff. They're just printing more money, sending it off, and telling us everything's good. I saw Joe Biden talk about how this inflation's going down. It's no big deal. Americans are happy with their bank accounts. I don't know. I think he should ask some Americans if they're happy with their bank accounts. Go to a middle class suburban neighborhood. Ask them how they feel about their bank accounts. Go to a low-class neighborhood. Ask them how they feel about their bank accounts. Then come back on TV and tell us, and that's no big deal. Everyone's doing great. They're gonna tear your ass to shreds. Anyway, folks, I've rambled on for far too long. We went over time again. But I think that all these things are interesting, and these are all things that we should be thinking about and talking about, because you're not going to get these topics, these points of conversation on the mainstream media. They're just not going to do it. And there's a lot at stake here. We as Americans have a lot to lose. If you think about it, all these politicians in high places that are making all these horseshit decisions, they're all set. They got money in banks outside the U.S., I'm sure. They got properties with walls built. They got planes and boats and cars, and they got all kinds of stuff. When and if a revolution happens, they're going to lock themselves down. While everyone else is out here playing survival of the fittest. So ask them tough questions. Don't let them get away with blanket answers. We got to do it. Our independence, our independence depends on it. Anyway, until next week, thank you for joining us. Again, I really appreciate it. And thanks for sticking with me. I look at the clock here and I realize how far over time I went, so I apologize for that. But we will be back with more next week. So take care of yourselves. Have a great evening. Try to stay positive in today's world. And we'll see you next week. Good night.